Yo, dudes, B-Man from Verdicks here with Denny and Nick tonight. How's it going, fellas?
Excellent.
Happy man.
Nick was just talking to Denny and I about the Whoop. It's a personal fitness maximizer. It falls in the category of active wristband.
Yeah.
But basically trying to optimize your health by tracking some of your internal data, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about it before I butcher it more?
So I'm comfortable talking about it now. I've had it for about 45 days. So I've gotten at the end of 30 days, it really calibrates and presents to you like the big data set of the first 30 days that you've been using it with your habits and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, I'll start from the beginning, really. I've tried multiple different devices. I've got a Garmin. I've had what are the other big ones?
Fitbit, Apple
I've had
Watch.
Fitbit. I've never had an Apple Watch. I've had a Fitbit. I've had some of like the
Their
Amaz.
Halo.
Yeah, you've had the Halo B Man. I've had
Yep.
like an Amazfit. I've had some other off brands and some different stuff. And the big difference between all of those and this is you've got face and some different stuff and messages and metrics that can be shown, whereas this is a blank canvas, right? So you're not going to get text messages on it. It's not going to count your steps. It's not going to show you your heart rate unless you access it in the phone application. You're not going to have a stopwatch. You're not going to have a timer. You're not going to have any of that sort of stuff. It is strictly, it's meant to be worn at all times. As a matter of fact, the charging unit on it is waterproof. And so it slides right over top of this unit. And so when you're sleeping or you're in the shower, you're not supposed to take it off so that you get like this 24/7 reading of all the different things that you're doing. The main reason I got it versus something like this was I really wanted to see what my recovery was like. As I got older and as I continue to get older, I felt like some of my workouts weren't as good as they were. I felt like I was risking going a little bit too far and maybe having an injury. And as you get older, if you get injured, God knows how long it takes to come back from something like that. So it was important for me to see and make sure that I was getting ample like rest and also working out as hard as I thought I was. So I moved on from running and stuff like that and the importance of counting steps and really invested into this. And so what I can say is it is a ton of information, like just a metric shit ton of information. It tracks so many different metrics, and it also you whatever you decide to put into it is what you'll get out of it. And what I mean by that is like every day when you wake up, it'll automatically sense when you're done sleeping. And if you access the application, it'll bring up a page where it's like I think there's like 150 questions that you can pick from that you want to have and be asked every single day. Did you take fish oil? Did you take a multivitamin? Did you have an alcoholic drink? Did you smoke marijuana? Did you take creatine? Did you have processed foods? When was your last meal? When was your last coffee? I mean, like, did you have sex? Did you masturbate? I mean, you name it. Did you feel well?
Yes to all.
I mean, then there's like stuff like, did you feel in control of your life? Did you feel like you had a sense of purpose? Did you I mean, anything you want, it can ask you. And if you choose to answer those sort of things every single day, it may seem overwhelming, but in reality, it's a quick yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It takes 2 minutes. And I think I answered like 25 of them. What it does is it establishes patterns so that you can see on a day where you got a 90% recovery rate, what you did on a day versus when you got like a 50% recovery rate. So you can see what works well with your body, what doesn't work well with your body, see what an alcoholic drink or a few alcoholic drinks at 9 or 10 o'clock does to your sleep, how many times you're interrupted, what your heart rate variability is like the next day, how you feel the next day. Are you groggy? Are you not groggy? And so it really presents to you, I guess, in my opinion, what it really presents to you is a way to optimize how you feel and how you're performing, not only in a physical exercise sense, but in like a complete life sense. There are days where I wake up and I'm like, I guarantee I'm in the 80s or 90s today because I feel fantastic. Those are the days where I kill it at work. I come home, I got a ton of energy for the kid. Then there are days where I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I bet you I'm in like the 30s. Bam, wake up, I'm in the 30s. I'm
Wow.
tired. I don't want to go to the gym. When I get home from work, I, like if the little one's still sleeping, I just plop on the bed like 10 minutes of just, and it's accurate like to a T. It's really cool. And it also, when you're doing your exercise stuff, it really shows you what type of cardiovascular load you're giving to your system. So it doesn't bullshit you. Whereas like you're like, oh, I ran 3 miles. Okay. You ran 3 miles, but your heart rate didn't spike above like 90, 95. So did you really give it your all? Your strain is actually only like a 2, whereas your optimal strain for that day would be like a 10. So are you going to do more? Are you going to do less? So it really presents a lot of data. It really is for people that are data driven, data hungry, that are looking to optimize everything. If you are a person that wants to count steps and that's how you like make your metric of like how well you're moving around through the day, this is definitely not for you. It is you're not going to go for a 3 mile run and get your paces through a GPS like you would with this. You'll get your cardiovascular load and you can track your GPS through the Whoop app, but it's not an all-in-one solution like this. It's really, 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 for me, I don't recommend it for anybody that's, it sounds kind of cheesy calling myself advanced, but I don't think it's for anyone that's like in a beginner stage that's just trying to like start moving and start exercising. It's really for somebody that's really trying to optimize, track heart rate variability, track their resting heart rate, and really making to have like life-changing, life-altering habits by being presented with like this giant report at the end of 30 days that says, hey man, you want to feel your best and do your best, you need to cut these 3 things out because they ruined they wrecked you when you tried to recover, and these are the good habits, and do with that what you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a 6-month commitment to this when I bought it, to do the subscription. At the end of 6 months, if I stop paying, the unit basically will operate, but I don't have access to any of the information. And so I'm still on the fence as to whether I'm going to continue at 6 months or not, because at the end of 6 months, I feel like I've probably developed and seen the pattern of what works and what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do find interesting is that like the main metrics that they track, they're definitely a strong precursor to overall health, overall heart health, overall, like if your heart rate variability starts getting like real out of whack, I guarantee in a few days you're going to be sick. And so it's like a good precursor to identify like when you're coming down with something, whether your heart's being a little bit weird, whether this is happening, maybe you should go to the doctor because this is out of whack, heartbeat arrhythmias and stuff like that. So there's definitely a benefit to continue to do it. I just don't know if the data that is presented to me will be as useful as it is to me right now as I look to establish good habits.
Sure. Now, do you think, because obviously as you age, what your requirements and what you're going to have to put out through your body and how things work differently, everything changes with age.
Yeah.
So what's working for you now, 3 years from now, may not work the same. So do you think you would continue using it for those purposes because you could then constantly be adjusting so that you're not like finding yourself 3 years from now then saying, well, this is what I did, why isn't it working?
And I think it will. Yeah. And I think like, so you enter your age and all this sort of stuff. And so it does have that scientific information as to like where you should keep your heart rate with exercise based on your age and your weight and all that sort of stuff. So it does automatically self-adjust as you continue to use it. And so, yeah, that could prove useful. Like as I get older to be like, hey man, maybe you shouldn't be in the 170 heart rates when you're going for a run. Maybe your heart shouldn't be that high, type stuff. The other thing too is like, the science that comes out says that like the vast majority of your exercise should be in a zone 2, which is like your heart rate in a zone 2 should do like 40 minutes of that a week and only like 10 in like zone 4 and 5. I'm like the exact opposite. Like I spend like 40 minutes in 4 and 5 and like 10 in zone 2. And so it is cool to have the thing open while you're doing your stuff and being like, if I kind of want to follow the science, I'm definitely going a little bit too hard. I need to tone it down a notch and kind of, take it easy type stuff.
In your example of feeling a 30 and feeling an 80, what is the ideal situation to feel? 100%?
I think it's
Is that like
virtually
an
I mean, that's the
actualized
goal. That's the
Yeah.
goal, right? And so, like, one of the cool things that Whoop does is like they'll have these high caliber athletes that wear them. Like Patrick Mahomes wears them, and I saw one recently where like a CrossFit girl who's like a national champion wears one. And what they do is they make that data available, right? And so you can see what they do on a daily basis with their workouts and also their sleep. And this girl was cracking like 97, 98, 98, 97, 99. And I'm just like, what in the world is she doing that's better than me? When you go and you look at it, it's like, oh, yeah, she's going to bed at 10 and waking up at 9:30.
Yeah, then she went to the massage artist.
Yeah.
Right. It's like she doesn't have a kid. She does, her job is to be a CrossFit athlete. So
Yeah.
I think everybody's goal is different. One of the cool things that I can talk about is like it has a built-in like haptic feedback for an alarm, right? And so when you set your alarm, you have an option to say, hey, I want to wake up at this exact time, or you can wake up within a window of what you want to be at. So if you want to be like, I don't want to wake up until I'm in the 80s, this won't go off until the Whoop app is like, you recovered into the 80s.
Wow.
So that's kind of a neat little setting. So I think for me, anything over 70 and I'm doing pretty good. The days that I'm in the 90s are like days where I've just fallen asleep in bed like extremely early because I was exhausted, and then I actually probably get the amount of sleep that's recommended. It's just not sustainable, I think, if you have kids, a wife, a job, real life things.
Yeah.
Like that like 90-95 is like what NFL and NBA athletes are hitting every single night because that's their job.
Yeah, they're also living the dream.
Right. Right.
Or at least their dream.
Right.
Practical question. Having worn these types of fitness bands for a long time, does it dry fast after it gets wet?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's got like
There's
this
nothing
like
worse than your shirt getting all soaked from a watch band.
100%. So it dries really fast. I will say though, they recommend wearing it like an inch kind of like above like the bone that juts out in your wrist or a little bit
Sure.
above that. So it is kind of a weird placement based off of where you're normally used to with like a watch down right here. And they also really emphasize that it needs to be a snug fit to the point where like if you can put a finger underneath of here into the bracelet gap easily, then it's too loose. Like you kind of have to tighten it up a bit. And so the break-in period of having something that I never take off that's relatively tight still is weird. It's like the first time you put on a wedding ring, right? You're like playing with it and moving it, and you're like, I've never had something on that I never ever take off. And so that got a little bit weird. And so now probably like once a week, at least when I'm in the shower, like I'll unlatch it and like, wash and get everything underneath there because it does get weird. Like you have this permanent, like, if I were to take this off right now, I probably have like the Whoop indentation in my wrist that won't go away for like a day because you're never supposed to take it off.
One of the questions I had was, do you see the fact that it doesn't have like those face features, quick reference things on your wrist? Do you think that that's a benefit to it, or would you prefer to have something to where you could get a quick access to where that way you wouldn't have to carry maybe you're someone that doesn't want to wear a watch and this?
Yeah.
You'd prefer just have, what do you think for your personal opinion?
I always try to be more disconnected from technology because if I have something that tells me when I get a text, then that's just a trigger for me to pick up my phone. And then that leads into like Twitter and all the other BS. So for me, it's nicer to be disconnected. And if I'm honest, I never really saw the benefit of like counting steps. Like I'm active enough to where I don't have to do that. And it's never really been appealing to me. Like when someone's like, oh my God, I'm only at 7,000 steps. I need to do 3,000 steps before I go to bed. Like, I don't know. I don't see a benefit in that. So I like this because it's simple. It's disconnects me a little bit. And I definitely maybe only check the Whoop app like 2 times, like in the morning and at night. And then like at the end of a workout, I want to see what my strain was, see how hard I worked. So it's nice. It's removed me from like my phone and text messages, and I don't know. Like I still wear this just because I want to tell the time sometimes, but I've turned off every interactive feature on it. Doesn't vibrate when my phone rings, doesn't get a text message.
Right.
You know, the battery lasts
That's
like
actually
2
similar
weeks now.
to how I approach my Apple Watch too.
Yeah.
I really just like the fact that it tells time.
Yeah.
Like it's a really big waste of money for a piece that tells time. That is built into us. We just like to know what fucking time it is.
Yeah. I was thinking about like I have this old like Casio, like old school watch that I was like, well, let me just throw that on now, you know? Like what's the point of wearing this big hunk of thing, you know?
Yeah, I have a Timex Iron Man from like
Yeah,
1998. Yeah.
Go Jocko Willink on
That's
us.
right,
Yeah.
432 every morning.
Yeah.
Shout out.
So you know, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think it's a unique take. Word of caution, it takes forever to get. I mean, I was like 6 months to get it with all of these shortages and stuff like that. And this is the newest version. I've never had one before, but a lot of people say that this one performs a lot worse than the previous version in terms of like battery life and different things. I don't know if it's because they added sensors and stuff like that, but I honestly think if I was on the fence, like, and we all live near each other and you guys were like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting one. I think honestly, I would just do like a round robin. Like, hey, I got my information for 6 months. There's no sense in you know, getting one. I'll give it to you for 6 months. You wear it, get what you need. You get it for 6 months when you need. And then whenever anybody's like, yeah, you know, I want to take a little stab at it and see where I'm at, like pass it around like that. I don't know if I see like if I have this for 5 years, I don't know how much useful information I'm going to get out of it.
Yeah.
I really don't.
You would maybe reference it. You're either going to be obsessed, and there's people with those obsessive personalities where they need to know everything, or you'll just kind of be like, you'll look at it when you think something isn't feeling right, you know, and you'll just kind of reference it periodically. My question was about price point, and then especially with continuing the app. You said you get 6 months free.
No, not 6 months free. So if you do a code, I got my first month free, and you don't pay for the hardware. So the hardware hardware is free. You have to commit to at least 6 months, and that's how I think they justify being the bracelet being free. You could always, I'm sure, just be like, I use it for a month, I don't like it, tell my credit card to cancel, you know, whatever. If you want to be that guy, but after 6 months, you can either do like a full 6 months pay where you get a discount, or you can do month to month. And then after 6 months, you can decide to renew and go month to month, another 6 months. Some people do a full year out. When it was a Kickstarter, the people that got in a Kickstarter at a certain tier hit the jackpot because they got grandfathered into unlimited for free. So if you were a Kickstarter and you ever gave up, you know, like I'd just be like, yeah, I want the new one, because you don't have a monthly subscription if you gave a certain tier. So that's the one downside to it. You know, like I had the most recent Fitbit, and they started something like this with their Fitbit app, where it was like, if you want their version of how well you're rested, you have to pay like $20. So I think everyone's kind of moving toward this for like certain premium data sets. Whoop was just the first. And I think Whoop does it better than any of them. I think there's some sort of statistic like this thing like does like, I don't know, it does like your heart rate like once a second, whereas this thing does it like 15 times a second or something like that. So because that's all it does. So if anything, it keeps me honest. Keeps me honest in my workouts. I can't bullshit myself and say, man, I worked really hard, and then open up the app and be like, that strain was a 1. Like, I guess I didn't, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. Thanks for sharing that. I had been following along with it for years after Rogan and Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer and all those guys talked about it. I like the elegance of the design. I think it's cool. It's a neat fashion piece. You don't see a lot of people with it the way you do with an Apple Watch.
Yeah.
So for those aspects, I think it's neat. What always turned me off was the monthly subscription.
Me too.
And then just the commitment to doing something with the data. To Denny's point, you could become obsessed with fine tuning it and dialing in and out what would work. What if I up my milligrams of caffeine? What if I decrease my chocolate intake? And you could almost be trying to optimize every single day but that's a certain personality.
It's like a Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
I'm afraid it would ultimately just tell me that I could only ever reach that 95 to 100 range if I was just completely out on my own, doing my own thing.
Or you were dead.
And then you'd be so much happier if you just offed yourself.
The transition when Nick was talking about sending it around from friend to friend, like those first couple of weeks, he'd be like, whoa, Nick, red alert.
What happened to this guy?
Well, that's, it's a really good. So if you're a person that struggles with just getting over that hump of getting started, the data it does present you could help you get over that hump. Yeah. Like if you're a drinker at night, you could do like 2 nights without drinking and and then do 2 nights with drinking and look at the difference in your sleep quality and be like, oh shit, like the difference between having a coffee late in the day versus just 1 in the morning. It's like, oh, some people need to see that, and maybe that's what gets them.
You're
over
not necessarily feeling
changes.
it, so seeing it in numbers makes it. Yeah, sure.
Right. So some of that stuff can help.
Last question: when you wake up and you feel like a 30, and you look and it's a 30, how does that change the outlook of the rest of your day? Do you go, oh, my whole day is going to be a 30, or do you go, I can change this around? Because I know I would go, oh, this day's a 30. Suck it up
in
now.
bed.
Yeah.
The other night the little one didn't sleep well, and I woke up and I think I was the lowest I ever was. It was like a 32, and all I remember is like texting the wife and just being like, "It's gonna be a long day." Like I knew what I was in for. I still went to the gym. I just knew in the middle of the day I was going to be tired, maybe have an extra coffee. It kind of helped, to be honest. Like it kind of laid out the roadmap. Like, look, you're going to have to work for today. You're going to be tired. And also don't be a jackass and stay up late tonight. You're at a 30, get your stuff done, get in bed and go to sleep. The TV show that you want to watch, it's going to be there tomorrow. No need to push it and do this tonight. So it kind of laid out the roadmap, but cool. I could see how a certain personality type could be like, wrap it up, like it's a 30, probably shouldn't go to the gym, probably shouldn't exercise.
Yeah, I need to lay in bed all day.
Maybe call out of work, like, you could definitely do that if you wanted to. So,
all right, well, that's cool stuff. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. That's
for sure. Sorry for the long video, but hopefully it helps someone maybe if they're on the fence of if it's worth it or not, make the choice for you.
And we'll stay tuned with you to find out if you keep the sub, and if you find anything that's groundbreaking, let us know.
For sure.
All right, cool. Till next time, guys. Shields up.
Shields up.